We know many people here have connections to the Baltimore area, so tonight we're giving a voice to the impact here this kind of disaster could have to that community.
Plus, some may remember Buffalo's own experience with a bridge collapse back in the 1950s. 7 News reporter Krista Moran taking a look at how things changed since then.
In this video, you can see a massive cargo ship crashing into the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore, causing the bridge to collapse.
It's the shock and horror of it all.
Mike Adamek, a Western New York native who now lives just outside of Baltimore, tells me this is a tragedy for his community. He says 30,000 Marylanders use this bridge every single day.
It's horrifying. It's beyond sad to even comprehend, and to know that it happened was just shocking.
This collapse draws parallels to what we saw in Buffalo more than 60 years ago.
But it was probably, definitely one of the worst wintertime disasters in Buffalo history.
Bishop Time and history teacher Steve C. Sean recently wrote about the Michigan Avenue Bridge collapsing in January of 1959.
It had been really cold for a while, and it warmed up a little bit, and ice floes started breaking up along the Buffalo River.
The ice jams and rushing water knocked the Tewksbury off its moorings. It hit a grain elevator and turned sideways. Despite an attempt to raise the bridge, the Tewksbury smashed into it.
The engineer aboard the cutter said that the sound of twisting and gnashing metal was one of the worst things he'd ever heard. It sounded like a car accident times a million.
It's catastrophic. It sets you back. It took 3 years to get it back up and running.
Nolan Skipper is the city engineer with Buffalo's Department of Public Works. He says there are now rules and regulations involving how vessels are tied down and how the city clears ice jams.
A lot of that is our focus is on the ice and lack of ice jams or moving through the ice jams. So any of our bridges in the navigational channel are pierless. So there is not a chance for any structure to be hit because we don't have piers in the waterway for the navigational channel.
And what about the larger bridges like the Peace Bridge? Well, the Peace Bridge Authority tells me the span is not comparable to the bridge in Baltimore because the Niagara River is much more shallow and there's not nearly as much traffic because Buffalo is no longer a major shipping port. Back in Baltimore, search and rescue efforts continue.
Knowing that there were construction workers and several victims on the bridge, I mean, it's a tragedy.
Krista Moran, 7 News, Buffalo.